It's time for the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That is right. Welcome in. It is the regular season finale, the season 3 finale of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com, where we break down the biggest stories from districts 1 and 2 in Idaho high school athletics, week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. One final ride. Brandon Baney joined by Ryan Scaggs, our North Idaho resident and expert. What's up, Scaggs?
Not too much. Hey, just to start things off, a very special happy birthday to our East Idaho Prepcast guy, Sean, state champion coach, Sean Kane.
Oh, yeah. His birthday coming up, huh?
It's today.
Oh, that's helpful. Okay, total cop out here. And he's probably watching. I didn't know that. And that's great because we're doing the East Idaho Prepcast later today. So that's perfect.
Yeah, no. Happy birthday, Sean, if you're watching. So
yes.
Thank you, social media.
Yes. Sean Kane, our state tennis champion from Century High School. We'll talk about tennis here in just a moment. But the big story, of course, is all of the spring sports championships that took place last week. Some in North Idaho. Shout out to softball and golf. Most of the rest down in the Treasure Valley. So we're going to run through it all. We're going to highlight the team champions, the individual champions, the placers, and all of the North Idaho athletes that performed well at state. There's so many to cover. If we didn't mention your kid, it's not a diss. There's so much to get to. We're going to whip through it pretty quickly here. And so here we go. You ready? I made some cool graphics for this. So let's start with track and field. We're going to just start at 5A, work our way down to 1A, regardless of how big the storylines were, because in some sports, the bigger storylines were in the lower classifications. But just to start with 5A, boys track and field, here are the team scores. Here are the individual winners. One champion from North Idaho here, Ryan. I will direct you to the 400-meter dash, where Kobe Cameron from Post Falls was your 5A state champ with a time of 47.79 seconds. That is blistering. Anyone who can run a sub 50 400, that's big league.
That's cruising, and congrats to the Post Falls Trojan Kobe Cameron on a state championship. That's awesome. So congratulations there. I mean, hopefully we would have wished to see some more results on the podium there, but I mean, at least getting one champion in a really, good race. That 400 time is like you said, blistering fast. So congratulations.
And he was the leader most of the season statewide in that event as well. So it's nice to see him, not quite wire to wire, but finish strong for sure. That's it for 5A. That's what we got. So we're going to jump to 4A now, and let's go to the 4A boys, where we also have one individual champion here, Ryan. I will direct you to the pole vault, where Klein Fragoso from Sandpoint has been rewriting the Sandpoint High School record books this season. And here he finishes the season off with a pole vault victory at the 4A meet, clearing 14 feet 6 inches. Way to go.
That's some ups. Congratulations, Bulldogs. Got yourself a state champ there. That's awesome finish for the high school season, capping things off with a state title, a gold medal at the state meet. That's awesome.
Yes, set that school record earlier this year, or broke the school record earlier this year, Klein Fragoso. Okay, and then again, that's it for 4A boys. Now we start getting into like our first big storyline of the spring sports season, and it came in girls track and field. Ryan, here is the 4A girls track and field results. Nobody in the team races here, but what a state debut for Moscow freshman Matea Noon. She wins 3 events: the 100 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, and the high jump. Freshman Matea Noon from Moscow coming out strong, taking home 3 gold medals. How impressive.
Yeah, that's insanely impressive, especially at a 4A meet where you look at some of the names on the board there too that were also competing in like events that she was in, and the fact she's coming out 14.78 in the 110 hurdles is just absolutely smoking out there. 300 hurdle time of 45.31 is crazy. Then to throw down a high jump, and then look at Zaya Munyer down there for winning the triple jump from Lakeland. 36.5 and a quarter. That's a nice jump from her. I know she had a little bit higher aspirations there for her finish, but still getting a state championship. I know she wanted a little bit more distance there on that triple jump, but still just an awesome job from the North Idaho athletes that are getting some state titles.
Yeah, so Matea Noon, the triple winner from Moscow. You mentioned Zaya Munyer of Lakeland winning the triple jump, and also Ivy Smith from Sandpoint successfully defends her shot put title from last season.
Don't want to forget her too. Yeah, she's been absolutely just throwing the weight around this year, and finishing with a state championship obviously is huge.
Yes, for sure. Hey, we have our first comment here from Max Oswald, great writer for the Bonner County Daily Bee. We were talking about Klein Fragoso from Sandpoint and winning the pole vault. He says, fun fact about Klein and pole vault. Only reason he started doing it sophomore year was because he was tired of waiting for his brother in the car at practice and just wanted to beat him for fun. He ended up doing a lot more than that.
That's awesome. You end up becoming a state champ and probably, getting some looks at the next level for sure in pole vault, and you end up out of boredom. That's awesome.
Anytime you can stick it to Big Brother too, always
that's great. That's a great story.
And again, we say it most weeks, but the Bonner County Daily Bee, Coeur d'Alene Press, Lewiston Tribune, even the smaller weekly papers in St. Mary's and Kellogg, and we are so spoiled up here in North Idaho with our newspaper coverage, and it's because of people like Max and so many others. So keep up the good work for sure.
Yeah, shout out to these kids, but we give shout out to all the riders too that write about them all year. Good grief. I mean, you talk about putting in the mileage and time. Those people do not get enough credit, and they do a phenomenal job up here in districts 1 and 2.
Yep, for sure. It is we are spoiled beyond belief up here in North Idaho. All right. 3A state meet. Let's go to the boys. We had a pair of double winners on the individual side. Again, nobody in the team race, but in terms of individual winners, Caius Tebby from Timberlake sweeps the hurdles. I think we expected that coming in. He won the 300 hurdles last year at state, I'm pretty sure. So Caius Tebby from Timberlake wins the 110 and 300 hurdles. And then Nathan Russell from Coeur d'Alene Charter wins the 800 and the 1600. So congratulations to Nathan and Caius, double dipping at the 3A state meet.
Yeah, the District 1 getting some state titles there is nice. Obviously, it would have been nice to have somebody a little bit higher on the podium in the team race, but still, Coeur d'Alene Charter always tends to show up in some of those distance races, and then Timberlake's up usually finishes pretty well too in the distance. But Caius finishing out that high school career with a couple state titles in the hurdles is huge.
Yep, and we can't mention Coeur d'Alene Charter distance running without talking about Annabelle Carr on the girls' side as we take a look at the 3A individual winners, and she did the same thing that Nathan did on the boys' side. She wins the 800 and the 1600. That 1600 time of 4:21:61. That's pretty good. That's a good mile time.
That then my fat rear end is not making it around a track in that time. I feel like if I could do that in like 2 laps.
Right. For sure. For comparison, Neela Roberts of Skyline, who is one of the most decorated distance runners in Idaho history, she won the mile in a time of 4:48:36. So you're talking about a 20-second difference there between, Neela Roberts, who's going to BYU, and Annabelle Carr from Coeur d'Alene Charter. So get 4:21. That's great for a girl, for sure. All right, 2A state meet. Ryan, on the boys' side, we had one champion, Alexander Lamson from St. Mary's, winning the discus. I'll admit, this wasn't on my radar coming into state. Shame on me. Way to go, Alexander.
What is that? That's a bomb of a throw. 158.10. Congratulations, Alexander. That's awesome for the Lumberjacks getting a state title at the track meet. That's great.
Yeah, and then on the girls' side at the 2A meet, this is something that was definitely on my radar. Lindy Kessinger from Morofino, she sweeps the throws, the shot put, and the discus. And we thought she was the favorite coming in for sure.
Yeah, and she'd been on the top or near the top of the leaderboard statewide most of the year, and finishes with a couple of gold medals at state. That's an awesome job for her, and I know she's going to go on and do bigger and better things too. And there's a whole lot of success that have gone through the track programs at Orofino High School, that's for sure, especially in the throws.
Yep, for sure. If I had time to organize our list of topics by biggest storylines in each sport, we would have started with 1A track and field, because that's where the most impactful North Idaho stories were. So we're talking about teams bringing home trophies now. Let's start on the boys' side, where Prairie earns a tie for third with Tri-Valiant. They each get 51 points, but if you look here on the team scores, Prairie was only 1 point away from second place Valley. They had 52, and they were only 10 points behind state champion Rockland. So, I mean, Prairie was right there in the mix.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Valley only had one champ, so that just shows you that, I mean, they had guys finishing on the podium second and third, makes a huge difference. Prairie with quite a few champs, so Trenton Lawrence, that time 22:03, the Class 1A record in the 200. That's a nice run there for him. And then, you look at those relay teams, we knew how good they were. How good were they? They were good enough that the 4x2 and 4x4 sets meet records, so or class records. So that's just an awesome job, and I know that Coach was huge and high on his kids, and they got a podium finish as a team too. So congratulations to the Prairie Pirates.
For sure.
And Noah Watson in the high jump from Highland. Can't forget him. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. The way state records work in track, official state records can only be set at the state meet. And so Prairie sets new Class 1A state meet records in the 200 with Trenton Lawrence, as you said, 22:03. That's been his key race all season long. I know Coach was hoping he could break through in the 100 and get the district record there. And then, those two Prairie sweeps the short relays, the 4x1, the 4x2, and the 4x4. The 4x1 was Matthew Wemhoff, Noah Geis, Ben Seacrest, and Dylan Eulencott. The 4x2 that set a new 1A record was Dylan Eulencott, Noah Geis, Ben Seacrest, and Trenton Lawrence running anchor. And then the 4x4 relay that set a new Class 1A record was Matthew Wemhoff, Ben Seacrest, Dylan Eulencott, and Trenton Lawrence. So if you chalk it up, counting all the relays, Trenton Lawrence gets 3 first-place finishes. Dylan Eulencott gets 3 first-place finishes. He ran on all 3 relays. Ben Seacrest ran on all 3 relays as well. And Noah Geis and Matthew Wemhoff each pick up 2. So that's pretty good for that quintet of runners for Prairie.
Yeah. And we're not looking at the second, third place finishers too, because we had a bunch. I mean, you go through those results. I mean, there is a slug of 1A athletes that finish on the podium, the top 3 in nearly almost every event. So very good representation from District 2 at the state meet. We're just talking champs only. So if folks want to get mad at us in the comment section, there's a number of kids that finished really high. I know Sawyer Hewitt from Kendrick finished on the podium in the 100, and there's a number of other guys out there that finished really, really well, especially and in the throws too. There's some Prairie athletes that are missing from the throws that finished on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, we would be here for 5 hours.
This would be a 4-hour show.
Yeah. And you did highlight our other North Idaho champ at the 1A meet, Noah Watson from Highland, clearing 6 feet even to win the high jump. He won on criteria.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I believe he won on criteria too. That's awesome.
Yeah, 2 other high jumpers also cleared 6 feet. And so for those that don't know, what that means is he went on criteria. Basically, he had fewer scratches, fewer times where he hit the bar than the other 2 competitors. And that's why he was awarded the first place finish. So way to go, Noah, as well. All right, Scaggs. Here is our lone North Idaho champion in track and field. It is the Logos girls really running away with the 1A girls track and field title. They scored 96 total points. Raft River was second at 78. And Raft River had been the big dynasty. They had won 3 or 4 in a row. So Logos kind of topples the power Raft River, and they win going away, led by, of course, Sarah Casebold.
Yeah, Sarah Casebold. I mean, she's going to go run at the University of Idaho. Look at what she was able to do there. It's pretty darn impressive. The results for the Knights there, and then winning also in the 4x4 as well in the relay. Just a huge day, a huge weekend for Logos, and a big school championship there at the 1A meet. And then, some of the smaller schools, really showed up well as North Idaho as well, with getting some, titles sprinkled around from Prairie and Potlatch, and some of the other schools showing up really well on the podium. Is it was an all around good meet for District 2 for sure.
Yeah. So you can run 4 events at state as an athlete. Sarah Casebold wins the 800, the 1600, and the 3200. That is grueling to run all 3 distance races and win. And then she was the anchor on Logos's 4x400 relay. So she goes 4 for 4. She brought home the maximum number of first place finishes that you could have at state. Sarah Casebold was joined on that 4x4 relay by Naomi Taylor, Alyssa Bloom, and Chloe Jankovic. So
that's
Sarah,
3 3/4 miles in a day. And half of that's a sprint. Like, come on.
Now, some of that, one of the races, I'm sure, was on Friday.
I'm sure, but
the other
still,
ones were
over a weekend. That's still a lot of running for me. That's more than I'll hit in a year.
It's a lot of mileage for sure. Prairie wins the sprint medley relay. Allie Geis, Aubrey Reeder, Kennedy Reiner, and Sydney Shears. And then you mentioned it, North Idaho sweeps the throws. Sage Elvin in the discus. No surprise there. She was the defending champ. But how about Catherine Burnett from Potlatch winning the shot put? Way to go.
Yeah, Logger showing up on the podium there at the state meet. That's a big deal too. So congratulations to all those athletes.
Yeah. And that concludes the track and field season. And as we mentioned, there were so many athletes that performed well all season long that also hit the podium. And congratulations to all of those athletes as well. All right, let's move into tennis here, Ryan. Nothing to report from the 5A tennis meet. Let's go to our second North Idaho champion from the spring sports season. Congratulations to the Sandpoint girls. They win the Class 4A tennis championship. They took out Bishop Kelly, which the rest of the state says thank you. They win by 8 points, 40.5 to 32.5. We kind of knew this was coming with Pepper Rickert, the incredible freshman. She won the girls singles title. And Coach Anderson does such a great job up there with Sandpoint tennis.
No, Kent is such a great guy. And, like I just look at them finally breaking through and getting that state championship. I mean, his kids deserve the credit, but he deserves some credit too. He pours his heart and soul into that program, and he does so much work up there at Sandpoint with that team. And I got to know him as a tennis coach up here in North Idaho for a period of time, and just one of the great guys, and not just in tennis but in athletics. He's just a great person to be around. He's super positive and really, really does care about his kids and his program and his town. And they got a state championship to show for it. So congratulations to Coach Anderson and his kids. That's just an awesome job. Congratulations.
Yeah, just phenomenal. And I was just curious to see if anybody could even touch Pepper Rickert in the five. I think she won 6-0, 6-2. So, oh my gosh, somebody, scored against her. That just doesn't happen very often. So
it's a machine. That's for sure.
Yeah. So congratulations to Pepper Rickert, just a freshman for Sandpoint, already winning a girls singles championship. All right, let's move to the links where we had the state golf tournaments taking place. Ryan, we had 3A at the golf course in Rathdrum, and the name is escaping me.
Twin Lakes.
Twin Lakes. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
And then of course the 2A was at Circling Raven. Up there in Worley, which is just phenomenal. Anytime you can go there and go.
They drew the long straw there.
Yeah, right. Anytime.
Twin Lakes is a fun course. Don't get me wrong. I love playing up there, but Circling Raven is like you're playing a resort type course. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty phenomenal. So let's start on the 3A side, and we'll go to girls golf here. Again, this was in Rathdrum. Bonners Ferry competed exceptionally well, but I mean, Kimberly runs away with the team title here. All 5 of their golfers placed in the top 10. Ryan, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, there's not much you can do about that, but we knew that Braylon and Avery Bayer were going to show up, and Braylon did. I mean, winning on the second playoff hole, under some crunch time, and ended up getting another state championship. That's a great job, and they're both going to go on and play in the Big Sky next year, but Kimberly, obviously, team effort. That's just absolutely impressive to get all your golfers in the top 10. But yeah, congratulations, Bonners Ferry. Still a second place finish, very respectable, and a great career from Braylon and Avery.
Yeah, Braylon Bayer defeats Kimberly's Elise Simmons on not 1 but 2 playoff holes. It went right down to the wire, and I think that championship experience Braylon Bayer has had in the past definitely helped out on that playoff, which is just crazy. And then Avery Bayer, her twin sister, took 5th overall, representing North Idaho there. So congratulations again to the Bayer sisters from Bonners Ferry. Okay, let's go. Nothing to report on the 3A boys side. So let's go to the 2A course. It's Circling Raven. Palmer Coleman from Priest River is your state champ at 151. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then you get Bo Jones right there at second. I mean, within a couple strokes, and um, like that whole like jumbled pack there. I mean, you talk about a pretty tight finish, one through like 8. That's pretty dang close. I mean, you're within strokes. That's 1 through 7 for sure. Within you don't rarely see 7-stroke difference between your top 7 placers. But Palmer Coleman getting the championship there. Bo Jones finishing second. Then you got Seth Swallows at 4th, and then Byron Hammett for Genesis Prep at 8th, with Genesis Prep finishing on the podium. Like that's awesome, getting a 3rd place finish as a team, getting some consistency there behind the rest of the top of the leaderboard. But great job, great season. Palmer Coleman with a state championship in two-way golf. That's awesome.
Yeah, we had 4 North Idaho golfers place in the top 10 from 4 different schools. So I like the diversity. Palmer Coleman of Priest River, Bo Jones of Lakeside took second, lost by 2 strokes. Seth Swallows of St. Mary's could have finished third. He actually tied with the kid from Rimrock, but lost the card off. That's where they choose a random hole on the scorecard and they look at who had the better score, and that's how they break the tie. And then Byron Hammett from G Prep takes 8th, and yes, the Jaguars take home a 3rd place trophy. And then we did have one top 10 placer at the 2A girls golf tournament. Kiara Lehman from Genesis Prep takes 8th.
Yep.
Congratulations there.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right, let's move into softball, Ryan. And again, we're just going to go 5A to 1A just because that was easy and I didn't have time to organize it on a bigger level than that. So here is the 5A state softball tournament hosted right in our backyard, Post Falls High School. In terms of North Idaho teams, the highest placer ended up being Coeur d'Alene, the champ from the north, of course, because they were the only team from North Idaho there. But what was significant was right away, they knock off number 1 seeded Owyhee. Number 8 Coeur d'Alene gets a 10-7 win. That sends Owyhee into a situation where they had to win 6 consecutive games to try and come back and finish off the title the hard way through the consolation bracket. Owyhee only won 5 of the 6. They lost the 6th and final game in that second championship bout. So for Coeur d'Alene to get that 10-7 upset, and then they pushed Timberline and only lost 7-5 in their next game. And so for Coeur d'Alene, I thought this was a really great state tournament for them.
No, absolutely. And you look at the parity within the seeding and everything, that your number 7 seed is your state champion and the number 8 seed knocks off number 1 in the first round. I mean, and then you look at the backside of the bracket with Capital ended up, coming through and doing fairly well. And it's just, I mean, coming out of a play-in game to beat Lewiston. And yeah, it's just, top to bottom, that was a pretty even field this year. And Coeur d'Alene getting that win over Owyhee. I mean, you talk about a rush, but did it maybe cost them a little bit with, emptying the tank emotionally a little bit? Who knows? But Timberline had a nice second game there against them. And then, Capital just put the brakes off of them and ended up getting the big win there. But still, I mean, I think that's a respectable showing at the state tournament. I don't know if they necessarily were a favorite to finish on the podium at state, but to get the win over the number 1 seed in the first round is certainly a huge deal.
Yeah, that was a great showing for Coeur d'Alene, I thought, coming in as the number 8 seed. The 4A tournament was split between Coeur d'Alene and Lake City High Schools. We had Moscow here competing, kind of a similar spot. They were the number 8 seed, and they nearly pulled off the first round upset against Bishop Kelly, who ended up taking 2nd place overall. They lost by a single run, 5-4. Then they turn around and take out a pretty good Blackfoot team, 8-6. And then they fall to Hillcrest 10-4. So Moscow ended up in the exact same spot as Coeur d'Alene did in the bracket. A little bit of a different path, but I thought, just like Coeur d'Alene, this was a great tournament for Moscow, the number 8 seed.
And I think it says a little bit too about seeding, that the North wasn't necessarily getting the respect in the seeding and the way it went. And but that's just the way that it was done. And, I think that both teams were a little bit better than their seed line. But I think that, just like I said, speaks to the overall competitive balance of the tournament, that all 8 teams are all pretty strong. So but Pokey gets the state champion, so at least some people statewide celebrate because it wasn't Bishop Kelly, but yeah. So
on a statewide storyline level, the big story here was last year Pocatello was in the spot Bishop Kelly was. They had beaten Skyview. Skyview had to come back through to beat Pocatello twice to win the championship, and Skyview did. This year, Pocatello was in the other spot. They had to challenge back through and beat Bishop Kelly twice to win the championship, and Pokey did. So storyline-wise, it kind of came full circle there for Pocatello. 3A tournament was in Moscow. Again, I'm picking up a theme here, Ryan. No respect for the North. Timberlake comes in as the number 8 seed. And again, defying the odds, showing that, hey, maybe the max prep seedings need to be recalibrated. They lose to Kimberly right away, 16-0. They're the eventual state champs. No shame there. But then they take out Parma 22-12, and they beat Gooding 6-1, and they beat Teton 9-5, and they push Homedale 16-12. They ultimately fall short, but Timberlake, your number 8 seed, coming home with the 3rd place trophy.
Yeah, no, that was an impressive showing to come all the way back through the backside of the bracket and end up in that game with Homedale and push them, but ultimately falling. But with a 3rd place finish for Timberlake out of the 8 seed line, that's stinking impressive that, everything goes chalk except for Timberlake decided to throw a wrench in everything for everybody else and kind of run the table through that consolation side. So great showing by the Tigers, and a 3rd place finish, absolutely respectable, and a great season to finish, I think, for that group. There is nothing to hang your head about with where they ended up.
Yeah, and I saw in the in the Coeur d'Alene Press, they had a nice article about they talked to Timberlake softball coach Cassie Lupinacci and just how frustrating it is that the teams from the North are never able to advance beyond that number 8 or number 7 seed. It was definitely worth a read. Okay. And then our next tournament was the 2A, and that was held in Orofino. Sorry, it's taking a second to load here. Here's the 2A tournament, Scaggs. The storyline here, we had Orofino, the host team, in as the number 6 seed. Grangeville was in as the number 7. So again, even when North Idaho got 2 teams, still bottom 3rd. Orofino won in the opener over North Fremont 11-1. So that's a 6, upsetting a 3. They lost to the eventual state champs from Cole Valley, then had to turn around and play New Plymouth, and they lost by a run, 12-11. I'm sure they were emotionally spent. They had just lost to Cole Valley. Then you have to turn around right away and play again. And that's what makes softball, I think, one of the more challenging brackets to navigate through. Grangeville goes 2-out. They also lose to Cole Valley 9-1 right away. And then they fell to North Fremont 10-7.
Yeah. Just, I see both those teams having not obviously how they wanted things to go, but that is, like you said, the emotional roller coaster and the tax mentally and physically on playing the back-to-back games like that. And that's just a tough way to go out. And, obviously it doesn't take away from both of those teams having pretty great seasons. I think, like we said, we looked at this tournament, to begin with, and I was listening to some of the preview stuff and everybody else from other districts that, this one was, everybody knew Malad was really good. Everybody knew Cole Valley was pretty good. But, the rest of the teams that were in there were all pretty even. So, it kind of ended up how, jumbled mess of salad of teams, but a great game. It was just a great season for both those teams. Just didn't obviously end up on the top like they wanted.
Yeah, it was tough to see for sure. But now we get to move to good news. We've had 2 North Idaho champions so far, right? Logos girls track and field, Sandpoint girls tennis. It's all about girl power this year up in the North, baby. Here's our 1A state softball tournament, and congratulations to Genesee. They are the state champs. They had to earn it the hard way. Kendrick came back through, beat Genesee in the first championship game 5-4 to force the winner-take-all second championship game. Genesee wins that 12-7. So, honestly, North Idaho sweeps the podium. Genesee takes first. Kendrick takes second. Clearwater Valley, a hard luck 3rd place. They lost to Kendrick in the 3rd place game 4-3. And then even Potlatch, they took 4th and lost to Clearwater 8-7. So really, these 4 teams were so evenly matched, and we knew that coming into state, and the proof was in the pudding.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, you look at what took place, and then I mean, Genesee, repeating as state champs, and this bracket was pretty tough. But just to see what the North did, I mean, if you look at the seed lines and the bracket lines, that Kendrick comes out, finishes in second, but Clearwater Valley getting third place out of the 5 seed. Potlatch finishes. If there was a fourth place there, they would be the fourth place team. I mean, all 4 District 2 teams were the last 4 standing, so that just tells you how strong this league was once again, and the result it stands alone on itself. They're pretty darn good season from all these teams.
Spoiler alert, you're going to see a similar thing in baseball when we get to it. For sure. Congratulations to North Idaho sweeping the top.
And Genesee, how did they celebrate their state championship? They had pizza at Fazari's. I saw them there on Friday night. So, yeah, that was in Clarkston. That's one of my favorite spots. If you're ever down the LC Valley, it's a must go to. But, that's how they celebrated their state titles. They went and had pizza. So,
cool.
Great season for them, and congratulations.
And it was in Genesee also. So, that's always nice to congratulations.
Well, home cooking.
Yeah, right. Orofino saying that didn't help us in our softball tournament. But, yeah. All right, here we go. Baseball. This is where we wrap up, and this is where we're really going to start getting into some big storylines. Of course, IdahoSports.com was broadcasting all of the state baseball tournaments once again this past weekend. And just overall, I've been doing this for 4 years now. This was my 4th spring of baseball at IdahoSports.com, and I cannot remember a weekend where every tournament had close battles, dramatic finishes, just gut-wrenching losses for some teams. I mean, just overall, big picture, this was one of the most dramatic, exciting, fun weekends of state baseball.
Yeah, top to bottom. I mean, all classifications, you had high drama, and just it was a ton of fun, man. You watch what these teams did; it was phenomenal. That you see some. We'll talk about them here in a minute, but some sneaky teams that we knew coming in and ended up, paying big dividends for them in the end.
Yeah. So we will start the proceedings with Class 5A, one of 2 classifications where North Idaho did not claim. So 3 of the 5 championships coming back home to North Idaho in baseball. Lake City was so close. Lake City and Coeur d'Alene both get to state. They had to play each other in the opening round. Lake City beat Coeur d'Alene 6-2, and then Coeur d'Alene just ran out of pitchers and fell to a very good Highland offense. Highland won the consolation trophy. Highland beats Coeur d'Alene 18-3, so the Vikings go 2-out. They threw their best guy, Aiden Blanco, on Friday or on Thursday in the opener against Lake City. He battled and gave them all he could. They just fell a little bit short, and then they were pretty much spent after that. Lake City, they get the win. They're playing Owyhee in the semifinals Friday night. Cooper Reese on the mound, their best pitcher, turns in a phenomenal performance. It is the 7th inning. It is the bottom of the 7th. Cooper Reese is out there trying to complete the perfect game. Owyhee is down to their final out. The bases are empty. Reese gives up a single to Keegan Kelly, the leadoff hitter for Owyhee. The next batter up, and then he steals second base. Reese is he's getting close to his 110 pitches for the pitch count. They leave him in there to try to finish it off. Next batter is the number 2 hitter, Lucas Skinner. He hits an RBI double to tie the game at 3. And then Reese exits the game after that. This is the first time I've ever seen this, Ryan. When Cooper Reese left the mound for Lake City, obviously the Lake City fans standing ovation, but the Owyhee fans also stood and gave Cooper Reese a standing ovation as he exited the game. And so we go to extra innings. Owyhee ties it. Bottom of the 8th, Owyhee has the bases loaded with 2 out, and they are threatening, and a bloop shot is hit to right field. Jack Pierce, who had come on as a defensive replacement, makes the catch of the tournament. Full dive, head first, glove all the way extended, makes a diving catch to record the 3rd out. We go to the 9th inning, and then bottom of the 9th, Owyhee again loads up the bases. At this point, Kyle Johnson is in right field. He had been pitching, and they moved him out to right field. They wanted to keep him in the lineup. Owyhee, Cade Walker hits a little fly ball to right. Kyle Johnson comes in initially, then turns around and stretches out to try and, grab it with his glove. It goes just over his glove, dumps into right field. Hawaii walks it off and wins 3-2 over Lake City. And then Lake City you could tell we're just kind of out of steam a little bit. They followed the Mountain View in that third place game 5-2. But for Lake City, they were so agonizingly close to getting to the championship game. But instead, it's Hawaii with their third title in 3 years.
Yeah, and that, Lake City, we talk about them being close. We knew that was a good group, but we really got to see, I think it's how good this group is. And they were that close. And Mountain View obviously getting a big win there on Saturday. There was just, you talk about going through a 9-inning game in high school baseball. Doesn't sound necessarily like a big deal, but with the arms, not every team's got the full bullpen completion that like you see in college and the pros. You don't get a recruit, so you kind of got to deal with what you got. And you just see the arms running out of steam. And it was like, they were hanging on by the skin of their teeth in back-to-back innings. I know that you guys had the call on that one, but that's just a tough way to end up, for that group. It doesn't take away from the great season they had in a very, very tough conference. Having to draw your league opponent again for like the 5th time in the last 2 weeks in the first round doesn't necessarily do you any favors either. So just a great season by the T-Wolves, though. Obviously didn't end up how things wanted. They were just that close to a state championship game appearance. But, it doesn't take away. Hawaii, hats off. That's a big win. And, they find ways to win and get state titles. So, shows up in a big way.
Yeah, one last story to share with Lake City, and then we'll move on. Jack Pierce, who had come on as the defensive replacement in right field and made that incredible diving catch. He had been Lake City's starting center fielder for most of the season, but late in the year, he was trying to drop down a bunt. The ball popped back up and smashed him in the nose. He fractured a couple of orbital bones and things like that. So he obviously had to go in to get that repaired, and he was pushing for playing time, pushing to come back. Doctors, parents, you got to play it slow. No, I'm ready. Let's go. He finally got cleared Thursday, I think, as the team was, getting ready for their first game at state. So he comes in Friday night as the defensive replacement, makes that incredible catch. He gets the start on Saturday. And as we're telling the story of how he fractured, the orbital bones, it came on a bunt. What does he do? He squares up the bunt. No fear in this kid at all.
It's like overcome it. How you got to do it. You got to face it sometimes. And there he did. So
yeah,
that's an awesome story.
So that was a cool story from Lake City. All right. This was I thought the second best story of the weekend from state baseball. It was at the 4A tournament.
Yes.
Moscow, the number 2 seed. They take care of Minico in the first round, 6-0. They beat a very good Blackfoot team 8-1 in the semifinals. Blackfoot was my favorite coming in. I'll admit, I'm sorry, Moscow fans. Yeah. I'll own it. I counted you guys out. Championship game against Bishop Kelly. Big, bad Bishop Kelly. It never matters what the seed is next to BK's name. They are always in the mix at state baseball. Moscow goes into the bottom of the 7th inning trailing by a run, and they stage the comeback of all comebacks. It was incredible. They had a man on, and really it was a couple of hit batters in that bottom of the 7th inning, and then basically Connor Isaacson scores Butch Kipling, the courtesy runner, to tie the game at 6. Jack Driscoll moved to third on the play. So the way it worked was Ethan McLaughlin drew a walk, Driscoll earned a walk, and then Connor Isaacson comes up to the plate with 2 men on. Isaacson hits it down the first base line. Kipling, the runner, comes in to tie it at 6. Driscoll moves to third. And then Tommy Holt comes to the plate. And I'm using the quote here from the Lewiston Tribune and the Moscow News. Here's what it says. Then came Tommy Holt, a seldom used senior who, quote, this is from the coach, worked his ass off and proved in the last week of practice that he deserved to be in there.
When you throw in the expletive, it just makes it that much sweeter. That lets you know that like how that kid really did work hard. If that's how things are going to get explained and it makes its way into the paper, that's awesome.
Yep, that's how Coach Griffin Rod described it. So Holt is up to bat, pinch hitting. He hits a hard grounder to third. Driscoll is at third base. We know he's a great athlete, and he's kind of faking like, am I going to go home? Am I not? It caused the third baseman from Bishop Kelly to hesitate. He decides to go to first base at the very end of the window of time, and he throws it away. And Driscoll comes home with the game-winning run, and Moscow wins 7-6 on the walk-off in the bottom of the seventh.
That's an awesome story. I mean, I was watching that one, and I know that all the broadcasters did their picks, and I'll give a shout out to Logan Green for getting that one right. I've looked at Moscow, and I'm like, man, they're a 2 seed, and I still feel like everybody's sleeping on them. Everybody's picking everyone else. And this Moscow team was just dangerous. They were really, in a very tough conference, playing the 5As, playing the 4As, and they, showed their mettle all year. And they flat earned that one and got a state championship, and that's huge for that school and that town. And I know that means a lot to that group of kids. And I've got, my cousin's kid goes to Moscow High School, is good friends with most of that baseball team, and that's just huge. So I know that it means a lot to them.
And that's what makes baseball so great, is that you can be a kid like Tommy Holt, who didn't get a ton of run this year, and you step to the plate and it's your moment, and he won't forget that for the rest of his life. I mean, that's just incredible. Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome.
Connor Isaacson, who drove in the tying run, was the tournament MVP as selected by the IdahoSports.com broadcasters as well. Okay, 3A baseball tournament. This is where Timberlake was. Timberlake goes 2-0. They lose to Fruitland right away, 7-3. And then they fall to South Fremont in a tight game, 10-9. Timberlake had played a lot of these teams in the regular season. They had played Fruitland. They had played Sugar Salem down at a tournament in Fruitland. And so for Timberlake, Fruitland is a little closer to home. Fruitland was a really good team. It was a tough first round matchup for the Tigers. And then that second game, you're just trying to find something on the mound. You run out of steam a little bit, but still a great season for Timberlake overall.
Yeah, no, great season by the Tigers. And I mean, 3A is just a tough count. I mean, that was a tough division this year. And you can go to that state championship game. There's plenty of highlights out there of that one. That was a phenomenal ball game between Sugar and Homedale. But there was, tons of good games. That's the semifinal round was phenomenal as well. So the Fruitland Sugar game was great. Kimberly and Homedale was another great game. And that was just a really exciting division this year. I thought a lot of highlights, a lot of great players that are out there, and some kids coming up and clutch in big moments. But, Timberlake just couldn't find their stride in this one, and unfortunately got sent, packing 2-0.
Yeah, Homedale in that semifinal to Kimberly was no hit. And they won 3-1. When does that ever happen?
Like, what do you do in that situation? You're like, what? Like,
that's just baseball, baby.
Yeah, that's baseball, baby.
Yep.
Throw a no in the semis and get the L. Like,
yeah, that's tough. That is so difficult, for sure. Okay, before I'm going to take the last two out of order here, we'll save the very best story for last. We'll go to the 1A tournament. This was in Boise at Capitol High School. Potlatch takes 4th place at district Scaggs.
This is not bananas to me, but it's also doesn't surprise me. Like,
and they almost kissed pavement in that first game against Glens Ferry. They won 9-8. Then they took out Troy 4-2 in the semis. I'll admit, I don't know the full context behind that. I know in this semifinal game, Dom Holden only pitched an inning for the Trojans, and then Joseph Bendel came in and pitched the rest. So I'm not sure what happened there, but Potlatch then gets to the championship against Kendrick, and to be honest, it wasn't really close. I mean, they took the hammer to Kendrick and won 10-2. So congratulations to the Potlatch Loggers.
Yeah, and Kendrick, that's just, you look at Potlatch, just, you talk about earning a championship, there you go. I mean, you draw the number 1 seed from the South in Glens Ferry, which is a good team. I mean, you look at what they did the rest of the way through the tournament. But, you draw Troy in your second game. You're getting no favors there, and then you have to play Kendrick in the title game. And that's just that's baseball, though. It really is. It's a weird game that, you don't always see go, and you get a hot pitcher. We knew Potlatch had the arms. That was the thing about that team, is that they had arms galore within their lineup, and they showed up. I mean, they put handcuffs on Troy and Kendrick in back-to-back games to get that state championship. So that's a huge deal for the Loggers. And I mean, a really prized, that town takes a ton of pride in their baseball, and they earned another state title. So, and that third place game, that Clearwater Valley Troy game, is absolutely bananas. If you were looking at the stat lines and everything in that game, the back and forth, that game was absolutely wackadoodle. So, yeah, I was at Clearwater Valley getting third and Troy finishing fourth. To me, like, it's just like the world is upside down. It's almost like it flipped the script of the district tournament. It's kind of crazy, but awesome.
Yeah. And, just like on the baseball side or on the softball side, there was a clean sweep of the top 4 spots with the 1A teams, right? It was
District 2, yeah.
Yeah, Potlatch 1, Kendrick 2, Clearwater Valley 3, Troy 4. If you'd told me coming in that Potlatch would be first and Troy would be fourth, I would have said, okay, that's one perspective, certainly. But that's what makes baseball so great, right?
You're entitled to your opinion, and it could be wrong. But no, I mean, that's exactly that situation. That's not sliding. That's just saying that conference. We knew that conference is bananas, and I said that district tournament is going to be crazy because you can't look at the district champion coming out of that and make them the state favorite, because it's a question mark, and you just get your popcorn out and see what happens. And sure enough, I mean, Potlatch getting the state championship, they earned it the hard way, and the Loggers got a title. And that's a huge deal there. So I mean, essentially, you'd be looking at them as the 7 seed and winning the state championship. So that's a huge deal.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable for sure. And then one last note on the 1A tournament, and then we'll wrap up with the 2A. I did want to say we talked about it all year. The Clearwater Valley baseball team has done a fantastic job streaming their games on YouTube. They were kind enough to let us kind of co-op with them for the 1A state baseball tournament. And so we kind of combined our forces and put on, I thought, production-wise, the best tournament of the weekend was that 1A tournament. We had multiple camera angles, just the stuff that all the Clearwater Valley fans are used to already, but the rest of the fans statewide were like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And it all is because of Clearwater Valley. So
yeah, no, that was awesome. And so many people had their hands in making things happen this weekend for us here at Idaho Sports with all the broadcasts and the broadcasters. I thought you guys all did a phenomenal job, and just hats off to everybody. That was a great bunch of tournaments this weekend. It was a ton of fun.
Yep, it was really fun for sure. Okay, and then to wrap up here, of course, the 2A tournament, all North Idaho final, Orofino and Grangeville. There was some crazy. It's funny how baseball works, because on the preview show we did ahead of the state baseball tournament, we said this 2A tournament has got some really good pitchers. I mean, almost every single team had one and even 2 guys that had ERAs sitting in like the high mark for ERAs coming in amongst like the aces was like 2. And then there was like 6 or 7 guys that were at a run or lower in terms of ERA. And then what do you get? Orofino beats Firth 7-6. Orofino beats Wendell 17-13. They win a big slugfest over Grangeville. Grangeville beats Chalice Mackey in the semi 16-15. They beat Malad 8-7. I mean, it was the hit parade in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the pitchers that what were there were, I don't know where they were, but the bats woke up. I guess somebody had Jobu in the dugout for each individual team, and they woke up the bats. Somebody was sacrificing a chicken before each game, because there was it was hit parade after hit parade. You look at the run production for these teams, I think well advance of their season high marks for most teams that end up getting a victory in this tournament. And just an awesome job. And the state championship was just a blast to see 2 teams from the same conference that are rivals with each other, Orofino and Grangeville, and the Maniacs ended up on the top of the heap. Was a huge deal, especially for what happened there in Orofino in the off season this year. Just a big victory. And that's awesome for that community. And a little bit of healing comes, I think, with that state championship win for the Maniacs.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible for sure. We do have one comment residual from the 1A tournament. Wade Morris, I'm going to guess he's related to Jamison. Potlatch sophomore Jamison Morris pitched a complete game against Troy on a limited pitch count of 82 pitches. Great rivalry game for sure.
That's impressive.
And that's what it takes.
And that Troy team's like solid, like we said. That we know they had Holden and Bendel and the other kids in that group, but that's a phenomenal outing. That's noteworthy to get your team into the state championship game. That sometimes that semifinal game is probably your hardest one, and that's impressive.
Yep, for sure. Jackson Vowels pitched the first game for Potlatch. Jamison Morris pitched the second. And then it was Jack Clark, the senior and our tournament MVP, pitching that complete game victory over Kendrick in the championship. But yeah, you mentioned it with Orofino, right? The story of Drew Hanna, their best pitcher, quarterback of the football team, great basketball player, almost the heartbeat of the school and the community, tragically passed away in August, right as the school year was getting ready to start, passed away in a car accident. And it's something that the wounds are still fresh there. And yep. I don't know that those wounds ever heal, but you just take it one day at a time. And so after Orofino had won and they were getting their, trophies and being presented and all of that, they did have on a hanger Drew's number 2 jersey that they took out there to the field with them. It was pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So
that gives you all the feels, man. Like that's, yeah. You talk about if you're on site, somebody's cutting onions, that there's some not a dry eye in the crowd when that takes place. And what I heard from people that were there too is that, the Grangeville crowd was insanely supportive of Orofino winning their championship too, and everything that team had gone through. And both those communities obviously are pretty close in proximity to one another, but supporting each other through some tough stuff, which was pretty neat to see.
Yeah, and then there was a poem that was given to our broadcasters, Scott Burton and Paul Kingsbury, prior to the game that had been written by someone in the Orofino community. And so Scott read that on the air as Orofino was getting their trophy and all of that. And that was a very touching moment. I was going to try and have it for the show here, ran out of time. But we will have that on our social media at IdahoSports.com. So be on the lookout for that. It was a very touching poem. Basically about, and then Drew Hanna was the IdahoSports.com player of the game as well, which I thought was also a touching moment. So yeah, it was an emotional weekend, a lot of feels there towards the end, especially, but what a great opportunity for that Orofino family to just be even closer together. So
yeah, no, that's huge. And some other news, I don't know if you heard, but our good friend Stetson Spooner at Mullen St. Regis, the football coach, has stepped down from coaching football this next year. So I saw that on the Idaho 8-man page this morning, and I know that it was this is a segue, but I mean, he's one of one. So if he's going to ride off into the sunset, he absolutely earned it with what he did at that program, and he deserves a massive amount of kudos from what he did with that team for playing a JV only schedule and weathering storms to leading his team to state championship, or not sorry, but league championships and state tournament appearances and state tournament victories at Mullen St. Regis. That's a huge deal for that community and for him. And he did a phenomenal job with Mullen St. Regis turning things around there. And so as he steps away, hopefully he will pull a chair up next to us on Friday nights. He's got an open seat next to me anytime he wants.
Okay. That sounds like I got to make a phone call and see what's going on there. That's thank you for being my lifeline to the football. You're like Adam Schefter. You're breaking scoops left and right here.
Yeah. But no, that's all. As we go into the off season, there's going to be a ton of changes. I think that's going to be a Prepcast all on its own, that we can bring all of the broadcasters together and just talk about movement. There is a ton of movement in the coaching carousel in this early off season in the state of Idaho. We're talking north to south. It's everybody. So nobody's been immune to coaching changes.
Yeah. In fact, I just sent a big email out to all the athletic directors, kind of thanking them for everything they do for us every school year. And then asking like, hey, also, if you have fall sports schedules, I'll take them. And, any coaching changes, you want to let us know about.
Yeah, you're going to get like those old, it's going to be like a Walgreens receipt. Coaching changes.
Yeah, just looking very quickly in my email inbox. Deary will have a new volleyball coach, Kaya Cannon. So that's just one of many coming. So
I know we're gonna see some in Coeur d'Alene, some big names, and it's all over, man. It's cool to see though.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that brings us to the off season. What are we doing? We just going away for the summer? Yes and no. So here's kind of what I'm thinking, Ryan. There's going to be kind of 8 weeks between June and July, right? That's kind of the quote unquote dead period. What I think I would like to do is showcase all of our Prepcasts across the entire state. So essentially, we will record 2 episodes of the North Idaho Prepcast, but we will place it in every podcast feed: East Idaho, Treasure Valley, Magic Valley. So those listeners can get a feel for what we do, and maybe they'll say, hey, there's a new podcast I want to listen to. So I want to do some off-season interviews. We did this 2 years ago, right? We had some off-season guests that we brought on. We interviewed Zach Eastman, the Lapway basketball coach, and Nicole and Maddie Simmons from Coeur d'Alene, the mother-daughter tandem for the Lady Bikes. So I don't know when we're going to record interviews or who they're going to be with, but between all of our Prepcasts, we'll do 2 for each one. That'll be 8 total, and then we'll release 1 a week to get us through the 8 weeks. That sound like a good idea?
Sounds like a great idea. Sean Kane and I were talking. It's like, why don't you just give us the keys to the kingdom one week and see what we can come up with too?
Hey, I think that's a great idea. The next time, and I think I told you that the next time I'm like sick or I can't do the show for whatever reason, I think I'm just gonna have you and Sean co-host the East Idaho North Idaho Throwdown.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Yep.
See, either ratings go through the roof or they go through the floor. There is no middle.
It reminds me of ESPN used to have the college game day, like post game show or whatever. They'd show all the college football highlights, and Lou Holtz and Mark May were like the 2 analysts, and then Reese Davis would be the judge, and they'd be like in a courtroom and they'd have to make their arguments, and then Reese Judge would decide, and Lou Holtz would just, Your Honor, objection.
And my teeth tend to stay intact, but
yeah. So yes, that would be a fun one too. So anyways, we aren't going away completely, but you'll hear different voices throughout your podcast feed in the summer. But that's a good thing too. And then we'll circle back in August and kind of hit the ground running for the school year proper. So all right, we made it. We made another school year.
What's that like? I've lost count already. 3, 4. But so
this is the 3rd year we've been doing this, Ryan. It just and really we do it for the parents, the fans, the players, the coaches that watch this. We don't do it because we like to hear ourselves talk or anything like that. And so the most rewarding thing to me is when I'm interacting with somebody and they say, hey, we really love the podcast you guys do. Thank you. Like, that's what it's all about. So
absolutely. And it's like, we've had some awesome experiences like the North Idaho Hall of Fame and stuff like that we've gone through, and where we actually get to take some time and talk to some of the kids and stuff like that we've done and covered through the years and everything. And that just makes it all worth it. Like, we're only here for the kids and to give them some spotlight that they deserve just because of the work and everything that goes in. But there's an army and community of people behind each and every individual athlete and coach. And, we're here to just shine a little bit of the light on them each week. So thanks for another year. And it's been a ton of fun.
Yep, absolutely. So one final time here in the regular season. Thanks for tuning in to the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody. Enjoy the summer. Hey, as you're out celebrating graduations and things, please be safe. All right. I know it's time to celebrate and imbibe and things, and I want everybody to get to the summer and get to next school year. So please do so safely. That's my one PSA as we're getting ready for graduation season. So
that's right.
For Ryan Scaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning into the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody. We'll see you this summer on IdahoSports.com.